There's well over 20,000 cities in the United States, and many are great places to live in or visit, but it's safe to say that some simply are not. If you're dying to find a new destination for your next road trip or to dig roots in, be careful what you wish for and, by all means, proceed with caution. Not all cities are all they're cracked up to be. And speaking of crack, while Miami is popular for its sandy, sunny beaches, it's starting to become even more well-known for being drug-infested. Cocaine-induced fatalities rose by 27% this year, making Miami the cocaine capital of the nation. And aside from having a hefty history of organized crime in the 50s, Miami was once a pretty nice place to be. But crime and corruption crept in by the boatloads in the 70s and 80s whenever the drugs became widespread. And with easy access to drugs being shipped in from Colombia, Cuba, and many other South American countries, violence reached epidemic levels, and in many ways, nothing has changed. Just this year alone, the mayor of Miami declared Miami Beach's entertainment district an official crime zone after a study had came out showing that 1 in 27 people had fallen victim to property crime. About 5,000 miles northwest of Miami lies Alaska's largest and most crime-ridden city, Anchorage. Over 1,000 languages are spoken in this diverse location, but unfortunately, the crimes committed in the city speaks volumes too. Anchorage has 3 times more violence than the average U.S. city, and property crimes are twice as likely to happen. The root cause of all this is alcohol. 55% of all assaults committed last year involved the inebriated individual in one way or another. Anchorage isn't the only place in Alaska, though, that has an alcohol issue. Nearly 75 communities in total have outlawed the consumption or even the selling of liquor due to the crimes that it's causing. But it still remains legal in Anchorage, and that's the problem. With an average of 102 days below freezing and only a few days that rarely hit 70, Anchorage is one of the coldest cities in the nation and one of the most dangerous as well. For obvious reasons, Anchorage does not hold a warm place in our hearts. Speaking of warm, LA's name literally means the angels, but what goes on here is a far cry from heavenly. The city of 4 million residents hosts over 50 million tourists every year, which is turning out to be a bad idea. Gangs run rampant in the streets, along with working girls and guys, if you know what I mean. Crime has risen by 73% in the last year alone, and there is no signs of slowing down anytime soon. There's a definite division between the haves and have-nots in Los Angeles. It is the third most unequal city when it comes to the rich-poor gap, and it's a place where you are sure to see the filthy rich and very famous people stepping right over lowly souls sleeping on the street. The worst thing about all of that is the people who live in LA have become comfortably numb about it. If you pull a Harry Houdini and manage to magically evade the criminals, an earthquake still might get you. Experts estimate the probability of future LA earthquakes being nearly inevitable, with many future earthquakes being extremely devastating at 85%, which is enough reason alone to be shaken up about going there. A hub for the nation's television and movie industry, Hollywood Boulevard is one of the city's star attractions, but it's also one of the most crime-ridden scenes. If you're going to the City of Angels, you might find what it's really famous for, its dark and dangerous side. We have all heard of Los Angeles, but have you ever heard of Lubbock? Situated smack dab in the Bible Belt, Lubbock is a town in West Texas. Up until the past decade, Lubbock was known for, well, nothing. Unfortunately, that is quickly changing as the tumbleweed town is growing in population and in crime, consistently earning a spot as being one of the worst cities in the US to live in, where in Lubbock, you could stand a 1 in 17 chance of falling victim to a crime, regardless if you live there or if you're just moseying through. Crime is not the only reason why Lubbock is so dangerous. In fact, the very intelligent founders of the town had decided to settle down right smack dab in the middle of Tornado Alley, one of the most natural disaster spots in the world. Detroit, Michigan, on the other hand, isn't naturally one of the most dangerous locations in the world, but the inhabitants do make sure that you get hit one way or another. Detroit is making the news for a horrendous crime nearly every single day, and with a violent crime rate of almost 1 in 50, the once popular Motor City is one of the worst ones that you need to steer clear of. Although there have been multiple valiant efforts in trying to clean up the streets by ridding local neighborhoods of gangs, drugs, and various other random theft, an increasing crime rate still pushes onward towards the headlines of the day. We think it's best to, detour around Detroit. Albuquerque, New Mexico is appreciated for its southwestern culture, delicious Mexican food, and hot air balloon festivals. But hot air balloons aren't the only things rising in this town. Crime is too. In fact, Albuquerque has a 15% poverty rate, which plays a big part of the problem. Wall Street even rated Albuquerque as one of the top poorest cities in the nation. Despair is definitely in the air. If you're headed to the land of enchantment, you might want to steer clear from Albuquerque altogether. Wichita, Kansas has gone from being famous for being the air capital of the world to being known for the top spot on the U.S. crime chart. With a population of a little over 400,000, Wichita remains a major center of the aircraft industry, but with crime rates so sky high, it's soaring with danger. Once home to the Wichita Native American tribe, buffalo hunting was a big deal, along with the growing of various crops from tobacco to pumpkins and even maize. Nowadays, the only thing that seems to be growing is the crime rate, with various drugs, acts of violence, and your everyday run-of-the-mill petty theft. There are some safe parts of Kansas, but Wichita just isn't one of them. So, if you're gonna visit the Sunflower State, pick your destination with care. Maybe it's best to do like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz and just keep flying past until you're not in Kansas anymore. Houston is one of the largest cities in Texas, appreciated for being an oil town nestled in the Gulf of Mexico. Over the years, Houston has become a sardine can for the displaced. Homeless and jobless individuals easily become desperate, and that sums up the dangers in this town. While Houston's crime rate really isn't as bad as some, it's the nature of the illegal activities that is most concerning. Tourists risk car break-ins just staying overnight in Houston hotels, and if you're planning on getting gas at the pump, you better hold on to your hat, and your keys, and your purse, and your wallet. The Texas oil boom town may have been great at one time, but not so much now. Boom! There, we said it. Now here's an age-old question. Is New York City a safe place to be? Well, on one side of it, there are those who do sing the Big Apple's praises, saying that it's one of the best, safest places in the nation, while on the other hand, many think it's a big rotten apple that's so dangerous that won't step foot in it. The stats do back up both sides, as some of the streets are safe for shopping and enjoying the sights and sounds of the whole city, while other areas you just don't dare tread into. Knowing which is where NYC gets tricky. One of the mob's headquarters for organized crime, New York City is full of history, and much of it's not all that great. It doesn't matter if you're moving to New York City or even just stopping by for a visit, you'll be taking your chances either way. Will you bite the Big Apple, or will it bite you? You can tell that Oklahoma City is a bad place when they start paying people $10,000 to move there. Seriously, one television series in particular has a lot to say about it. OKC is often featured on the true crime documentary 48 Hours due to the fact that there is never a lack of cases to solve. In the older neighborhoods, poverty sets the scene for crime. Ravished vacant houses serve as makeshift drug dens, and the streets are certainly not safe enough to drive down. I mean, sure, there is some safe neighborhoods in OKC, but the criminals have to have somewhere to steal from, right? Without a doubt, this dreadful city is the worst of the worst. And if you're finding the $10,000 bribe to be tempting, beware. Being in Oklahoma City alone might end up costing you dearly. You wouldn't pay us to go.